Now, 2 Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputies were shot just about an hour ago. Both deputies have been rushed to the hospital. Right now, we have no word on their conditions. We can tell you this shooting happened at a Metro train station in Compton. It's just a short distance from the sheriff's station. If we get more during this broadcast,
Home of a dead man. The sheriff says he was caught on video leaving a door unlocked and then returning several times while on duty to burglarize the home. CBS 2's Stacey Butler has this story.
I thought the police always the person we trust.
This Yorba Linda homeowner was shocked to learn that days after his next-door neighbor was found dead of natural causes in his home by this Orange County Sheriff's deputy doing a welfare check. Investigators say that same deputy returned to the man's house several times to burglarize it. It was all caught on Ring camera video. This neighbor told us when the man's girlfriend returned to the house, she found the back door open and asked him to go inside with her.
I asked her to go inside the house, and she said that because I see the back door is open, so I worry about anything happen inside the house.
Security tape shows 12-year Sheriff's veteran Stephen Holtz entering the house, first in uniform, then deputies say he returned again at least twice more in shorts and a sweatshirt. He stole a fan, then a gun safe, a larger safe, and other items from the home. The man's neighbor told us the man was in his 70s, had lived alone in the home 40 years. He had 5 dogs but no children. An attorney for the estate gave the Ring video to the Sheriff's Department yesterday.
I cannot tell you how disappointed I am in the actions of Mr. Holtz. When he was called to the residence, it was to render aid and assistance, not to set himself up to commit further crimes or to victimize that family, and we owe them an apology.
The sheriff's deputy is now being held here at the Orange County Jail. He faces a number of charges, including burglary, grand theft of a firearm, and possession of an assault rifle, all felonies that could land him in prison.
It's textbook impersonating law enforcement officer.
Look at this video. You have to admit, the man is dressed like a real police officer. Got a tactical vest, taser, the whole 9 yards.
From head to toe, he was dressed, looked like a traffic enforcement officer, maybe a DUI unit at night. He was in a well-equipped vehicle.
But police tell us he's not a real officer. And now, Omar Ford is facing charges of impersonating one. And the way he got caught is like something straight out of a comedy movie. Now, it started when a real cop, an Orlando police officer, was driving through Castleberry. The Orlando officer was off duty and was driving his personal car, a blue convertible BMW. The report says Omar Ford, the alleged fake cop, started flashing his strobe lights, activated his siren, and from his PA system in his Ford Explorer, told the man driving the BMW to slow down. But alas, no one can spot a fake cop better than a real cop. The Orlando police officer told Ford to sit tight and called law enforcement.
When he tried to stop him, he could look over and see, and since he's a policeman himself, he knows about the uniforms and the jurisdictions.
A citizen would mistake this all day.
When questioned, Ford told law enforcement he works for a private security company and was on his way home from work and stopped the man in the BMW because Ford thought he was driving erratically and was concerned for his safety. The fact Ford was driving with a suspended driver's license didn't help. Has Omar Ford done this before? If he looks familiar, the real police would like to know. But for now, the curtains have been drawn on his acting career as a police officer. Michelle Meredith, West 2 News.
The security company Ford works for is licensed in the state of Florida. Castleberry police say they are going to follow up with that company about their uniforms and how to prevent this from happening again.
Continues in New York City with more than half a dozen shootings overnight, 2 of them deadly. In one instance, police responded to a call around 1:30 this morning about 2 men shot in the Melrose section of the Bronx. A 23-year-old shot in the head died at the scene on Park Avenue. A 26-year-old shot in the groin was taken to the hospital. Just minutes later, another victim was shot and killed in the Mount Hope section of the Bronx, a 25-year-old man. By our tally, there were at least 7 shootings overnight, with
He attributes much of this summer's staggering increase in the number of shootings in the city to gang activity. Today, CBS 2's Ali Bauman rode along with some of the top detectives combating gang violence in Brooklyn. She joins us now live from Brownsville with this exclusive look. Ali.
Well, Dana, we rode along with 3 detectives in the Brooklyn North Violent Crimes Task Force around the epicenter of our city's shootings. The Violent Crime Squad is tasked with investigating gang violence and gang-motivated shootings. The lieutenant here in Brooklyn North says gangs are the driving force behind the current rise in gun violence. They brought us around the 73rd precinct here in Brownsville this afternoon, explaining how detectives collect intel on gang members both on the ground and on social media, and how they're working to curb gun violence. In just the last 2 weeks, the squad got 9 guns off the street here in Brownsville, and that work affects all of Brooklyn and crime citywide.
These two gangs here have been engaged in constant combat for the last 10 years. It spreads into Bedford-Stuyvesant, it spreads into Brooklyn South, it spreads into Crown Heights. This is the heart of it, though. So this is the heart of where this beef initiated, and this is still the heart of where we see the most incidents.
And tonight at 11, we'll show you some of the new tactics detectives are using to get guns off the streets, including how investigators right now are using music to get ahead of targeted shootings in order to protect innocent bystanders. That's coming up tonight at 11 o'clock. For now, we're live in Brownsville, Brooklyn. Ali Bauman, CBS 2.
Violence is rising at an alarming rate in New York City, and the NYPD says gangs are committing the crimes. CBS 2's Ali Bauman rode along with some of the top detectives working to combat crime in Brooklyn. She has an exclusive look at what's being done to get the guns off the streets.
They're shooting to make a name, to make a statement.
The 73rd precinct in Brownsville is one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the city.
We send confidential informants out on the streets in these areas just to get more information for us, more intelligence.
These 3 detectives are with the Brooklyn North Violent Crime Squad. Their job is to investigate gang activity.
So this is like one of the other dividing lines between the opposing gangs.
The tight geography of gang territories here creates tension, which has a ripple effect citywide. The detectives took us to the scene of a shooting involved in the squad's most recent takedown.
One of the rival gang members is coming down the street riding a scooter. He catches eyes with the rival gang member. He ends up darting across the street, pulling out a firearm.
An innocent bystander was caught in the middle. This is just one incident that led to the arrests of 34 alleged gang members. Then we went to the Van Dyke housing complex, where another bystander was hit in an alleged gang shooting this April.
This is during the height of COVID, so both are wearing gloves, wearing face masks.
Why is there more gang activity right now than last year?
Because some prominent gang members have been shot, and that creates a retaliatory effect. Back in the day, gang members used to mark their territory using graffiti. You know, it doesn't occur as much now. What we see is they're using social media as the graffiti.
The detectives say rival gangs are taunting one another in song, which they post online. We've altered this music video to protect the innocent. Immediately after the song was released, the lieutenant says there were 22 shootings between 2 rival gangs. How do you use the music then to work in your investigations?
So the music, it steers us into the right direction. When they reference those specific incidents that occurred, we know that's something we have to have a laser focus on to try to solve, because it's obviously perpetuating the violence until someone's, brought to account for that act.
Bottled up retribution since the pandemic, as well as civil unrest and calls for police reform this summer, have had an effect.
Some people have a mistrust for police. Some people are hesitant to call the police or seek out the police's help. Has that had any kind of impact on you this year?
I do see that. If the community doesn't help us, we're never going to achieve the goal that we want to achieve. And that goal is to hold all these gang members that are driving this violence accountable for their actions.
The NYPD made 160 gun arrests last week alone, the highest one-week total in 25 years. In Brownsville, Brooklyn, Ali Bauman, CBS 2 News.
While the department says arrests are down 1.8% from last year, the NYPD reported a 36% increase in gun arrests for the month of August.
33-year-old man has died after a shooting in Brooklyn. Video from Citizen App shows police on the scene at 78th Street near 12th Avenue in Dyker Heights. Police say the victim was shot around 5:30 this evening and later died at the hospital. It's unclear what led to the shooting. In the city, there have been at least 9 shootings since 11 o'clock last night, with 10 victims and 3.
A night of dancing, partying, and having non-socially distanced fun at Washington Square Park ended just after midnight Saturday by police.
The time is now 1:35 a.m. Washington Square Park is now closed. Make your way to an exit.
But less than 24 hours after the barricades were placed, a similar gathering reappeared. Larissa Vasello tells us this is not a party, but a celebratory Black Lives Matter protest.
Rejoicing is a part of protest as well. We start oftentimes early in the morning, and then we come here to enjoy each other and love each other.
Last Sunday, we showed you this video of another gathering here where face coverings were not worn, while people of all ages bounced together to the beat of music. Nearby, NYU says it is aware of what's happening in the park, and even though it is off campus, they have sent warnings out to students about non-socially distant gatherings. So far, the university says it has suspended more than 30 students for disobeying social distancing rules.
People are obviously starved for entertainment.
NYU is stepping in to assist by sending, quote, public health ambassadors outside the park entrances to hand out masks. Some students support that and the disciplinary action school officials are taking.
Is that going to make a difference?
Yeah, I think people are a lot more cautious.
We did sign a contract coming back to school to break the rules. If we broke the rules, we get suspended. We did not get our tuition back. I think it's very fair.
NYPD officers were also present, along with Park Enforcement Patrol officers, both groups monitoring the crowd from afar, while people nearby watched the excitement unfold.
It does not seem scary. I mean, when I first got here, I thought, I felt a little tense. But no, right away I realized it was quite peaceful, and I feel totally relaxed.
And obviously, as you could tell at the beginning of Corey's report, things getting there a little bit out of hand with some people. Corey is okay. Our producer just spoke with him, but we let him clean up his live shot and get out of there. Tonight, with the demonstrations that briefly stopped traffic on the George Washington Bridge, protesters ended up in Washington Heights, just outside of the NYPD's 34th precinct. CBS 2's Kieran Dillon is live now in Washington Heights with more. Kieran, what's the latest there?
Jessica, the scene here tonight was tense and sometimes hostile as the situation quickly escalated between police and protesters. More than 100 BLM protesters were here in front of the 34th precinct around 8 tonight when they say they were confronted by police. We overheard police on a loudspeaker warning of arrests before officers in riot gear pushed protesters back, yelling, move back in the process. Eventually, the group dispersed, but some protesters were taken into custody. Now, several people we spoke to say the protest started in the Bronx and New Jersey earlier today. Both groups then met on the George Washington Bridge, where they blocked traffic on the upper level in both directions for about 40 minutes before gathering here at the 34th precinct.
They were giving some speeches and so forth, and then the cops started pushing in and said that we had to be on the sidewalks, and then they just kind of bum rushed everybody, and they made I saw at least 5 arrests. They had people on the ground. They forcefully made us disperse. It wasn't that you guys have to leave. It was a forceful dispersion. If you're having a peaceful protest and the cops get the bully clubs, they have riot gear, and there was no riot.
We're just peacefully protesting here, and they're more angry that we're here rather than the reason that we are here. And it's just always the same thing. It's like, what else can we do? We sign these petitions, we do all of this, and it's still the same bull crap.
So police say there were 6 people taken into custody tonight. Charges are pending. We're live tonight in Washington Heights. Kieran Dillon, CBS.
Has been arrested for a deadly hit and run in Bayonne. Prosecutors say 50-year-old James Nichols struck a man who was trying to cross Avenue C Thursday night, then sped away. Moments later, that victim got hit by an NJ Transit bus. 50-year-old John Hagens from Jersey City died at the scene. Nichols here has been charged with leaving the scene of a crash that resulted in death. Attempted rape in Brooklyn. Investigators say here is the man who approached a 38-year-old woman from behind with a gun, then assaulted her and stole, get this, $12. We're told the man eventually ran away from the scene. This happened on Crystal Street in East New York late Thursday night.
This morning, police are searching for 2 men accused in a robbery spree in Brooklyn. Investigators say the men simulated a gun while demanding cash at 2 bodegas, a restaurant, and a hotel in just a 2-day span. The incidents happened on September 3rd and 4th. Police say they've gotten away with about $560 in cash and property. No one was hurt.
2 of them fired shots, killing a 22-year-old man and injuring 2 others in Brooklyn. This happened around 2:30 Thursday morning near the Van Dyke houses on Blake Avenue. Surveillance shows several people running, jumping into vehicles, and driving away. Anyone with any information is asked to call police. Katie Johnston for CBS.
It's one of the latest shootings and the increase in gun violence across New York City. CBS News' John Diaz has the very latest.
A crime scene unit busy Thursday investigating and placing more than 20 evidence markers around 2 courtyards of the Van Dyke houses in Brownsville, Brooklyn, where multiple bullet casings were seen scattered throughout. Police say 3 people were shot around 2:30 a.m. after neighbors tell us a large group gathered.
It's crazy. You know, it's ridiculous.
According to the NYPD, a 32-year-old man and a 38-year-old woman were shot. Both are in stable condition, but a 23-year-old man is in critical condition at Brookdale Hospital after being shot in the head. Detectives still don't know a motive.
Me teaching that violence is not the only solution to resolve a problem. And then the issue will go down.
And many people tell us they're concerned about elder loved ones who lived in the area, saying stuff like this has become the norm. Also now common, thinking this.
She says it sounds like firecrackers going off.
Joseph Rivera says his mom is almost 80. He's been begging her to move.
I want her to go to Puerto Rico or Florida. She says she doesn't go to the window because she's scared that she's going to get shot.
At least 14 people were shot in the city, 2 fatally, Tuesday into early Wednesday. The most recent numbers show year to date, the number of people shot in New York City is up more than 97% compared to last year.
There's not enough policing, and then when the police come, you can't fight with them. They have a job to do.
NYPD attributes much of the violence to gang activity, but continues to point out the uptick in gun arrests, with 160 last week, the most in a single week in 25 years. Yesterday, Commissioner Shea had this to say.
You want to reduce shootings? Take gun arrests seriously. We've put so much work into that over the last 6 years. There's always an exception, but there is no reason to carry an illegal firearm on the streets of New York City.
But police have yet to make an arrest in this morning's multiple shooting. In Brownsville, Brooklyn, John D.
In New York City, the NYPD says that they've made 160 gun arrests, the most in a single week in 25 years. Welcome back. I'm Christine Johnson.
I'm Maurice Dubois. Despite the reported efforts to get guns off the street, there were several more shootings over the last 24 hours.
A nurse was hit by a stray bullet in Red Hook, Brooklyn. Also, last night, a couple out caught in the crossfire. CBS 2's Alice Gaynor live now in Bed-Stuy, where there was another shooting just this afternoon. Alice?
Maurice and Christine, we were in the area to report on one shooting and received an alert about shots fired nearby. We're here on Marcy Avenue and Martin Luther King Jr. Place. You can see police have the street taped off. They seem to be focusing their investigation by that wine and liquor store and that deli. If we move over to the right, you can see they also have areas taped off here at Marcy houses and officers positioned outside. Right now, they say it doesn't appear that anybody was struck by any bullets fired here, but the investigation is ongoing.
An NYPD chopper circles overhead Wednesday afternoon after more gunfire in Brooklyn. A bullet hole pierces a storefront window on Marcy Avenue. Just last night nearby on Marcy Avenue, police say around 10:30, a 42-year-old man was shot in the hand and a 46-year-old female was shot in the leg after a man started firing a gun at someone else. That person was also hit. The couple was out walking their dogs. This morning, just after 9 a.m. in Red Hook in the area of Bay and Clinton Streets,
I heard about like 4 or 5 shots.
Police sources say a 50-year-old woman who had just completed a motorcycle road test was walking back to her car when she heard shots and felt pain. The woman, a nurse at a hospital on Staten Island, sources say, was struck in the shoulder by a 9mm bullet fired from about a half a mile away. They say she was hit after 2 men fired at another man. All 3 took off. It's believed to be gang-related. In the 24-hour period yesterday, police say there were 7 shooting incidents and 12 victims. Shootings are up in New York City from last year, but the mayor and NYPD continue to point out the uptick in gun arrests, too, the most in a single week last week in 25 years.
Imagine that. 160 more arrests means a lot of guns off the streets and a lot of people who will be safer in neighborhoods all over this city.
The NYPD commissioner says with courts reopening, they should be able to do even more.
Once these grand juries really start ramping up, it's going to be a bad time to be a gang member in New York City, because we've had a lot of time to build cases. Do you want to fight crime in New York City? Answer that subpoena notice when you get asked to participate in the grand jury. I know it's not fun, but we need people involved.
Again, a report of shots fired a couple of hours ago here in Bed-Stuy, but police say it doesn't seem like anybody was struck by any of the bullets, just one of the storefront windows over there. But again, the investigation is ongoing. Live in Bed-Stuy.
And now to breaking news in Jersey City, where police are investigating an officer-involved shooting. Police say that a street crime unit was conducting a surveillance operation near Union Street and MLK Drive. Officers say they saw a 21-year-old man take a handgun out of a car and put it in his pocket. When police moved in, the suspect allegedly ran away, and after a chase, an officer fired 3 shots. One of them hit the suspect in the wrist. That suspect now being treated at a hospital. The officer was
back. Shootings across the city in just a matter of hours. Good evening. I'm Maurice Dubois.
And I'm Christine Johnson. We have now learned 8 people were shot in a hail of bullets throughout 3 boroughs this afternoon and evening alone.
1 person shot in the Bronx, another in Long Island City, and 6 more between 2 shootings in Queens and Brooklyn. CBS 2's Alice Gaynor live in Bed-Stuy tonight. Alice.
Maurice and Christine, police say a man in Queens was killed this afternoon after a gunman walked into the courtyard of a building and opened fire. Hours later, unrelated, another shooting right here in Brooklyn. Chopper 2 was over 2943 Far Rockaway Boulevard after 3 people were shot shortly before 2 p.m. Police say 20-year-old Christopher Campbell was killed. A 19-year-old man and a 21-year-old woman were also shot, but are expected to be okay. Right now, a motive is unclear.
I heard like 5 shots go off.
A couple of hours later in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, police say 3 people were shot in front of 456 DeKalb Avenue just after 4:30. At least 1 is in critical condition.
I felt kind of scared at first, but then I was like, oh, it's some New York stuff, so, you know, it happens regularly over here around these parts.
Year to date, the number of people shot in New York City is up more than 97% compared to last year. Tuesday excluded, there were 22 shooting incidents citywide from Friday to Monday of Labor Day weekend. 4 people died, including 62-year-old Michael Scully, who was walking his dog Monday morning in Bay Ridge when police say he got into an argument with a man who shot him multiple times in the head and shoulders. 52-year-old George Vios has now been charged with his murder. Police have also now charged 15-year-old Donovan Bailey as an adult in the shooting of 5 people, including a 7-year-old, at an unofficial Juve gathering early Monday morning in Crown Heights.
Except for that incident, overwhelmingly, we had a peaceful weekend in central Brooklyn.
According to the NYPD, while shootings are up, they're making more gun arrests. Last week, they hit a 25-year high in gun arrests with a total of 160 firearms confiscated.
One of the things that have shown success in curbing the violence is putting cops on overtime.
As for the shooting here in Brooklyn, police say 2 men fired shots at 3 men outside of the building here, the apartment building here. They all appear to have known each other. Police believe this was gang related, but so far no arrests.